everybody. Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast Podcast with Wayne and Patrick. Signing on again here. We took some lumps in week one as far as our predictions went. We can give a shout out to the Dallas Cowboys for absolutely obliterating the New York Giants. I think Wayne and I both picked the Giants in an upset on that one. And, when it's 40-0, I think you can put your tail between your legs and, knock your head down a little bit and kind of admit where you're wrong and things like that. But yeah, I think we did okay going down the board from last week in week one. We're gonna incorporate some of the findings we saw in the first week of football into this week two prediction series. Again, we're gonna go down the line of all the games coming up for this week, give you the insights that we see, carry over stuff from week one, and just have fun with it as we always do. We'll close out with a final thought. So I guess without further ado, we'll look at this Thursday's game coming up between the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. Wayne, who do you have here?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Yeah, no, in regards to all the shellackings, bring it on, bring all the comments. I'm on all in favor for all that. I know we picked the Giants and they got thrashed, so bring it on. I think I engaged with a couple people on there, so love to hear from all the trash talking and shit talking and keeping us in line. So, um, yeah, with regards to Vikings and Eagles, I mean, for me, I have to pick the Eagles on this one. The Eagles looked, pretty good overall, I think, right? Uh, so, for me, I have to go with the Eagles here. I think the Vikings, there's some injuries on their offensive line that I think could hurt them, and Kirk Cousins, not the best game, for sure. I mean, they lost, so I think he had like three turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, just not the best game from Kirk Cousins, not the best effort there. So I feel like this one, I think the line was last time I checked was at 7. I think the Eagles could probably push that. So for me, I know the Eagles. That being said, I think that they've had some injuries on their defensive side. N'Kobe Dean looks like he might be out. James Bradbury, but I think they got some fillers in there with Nicholas Murrow, who has some starting experience, and then also uh, Jacoby as well. So I feel like they could kind of surpass that with an already strong defense that the Eagles have. So for me, got to go with the Eagles here in this Thursday night matchup too. I think that's a key component is just the better team, and then also short week. I feel like you got to go with the a team like the Eagles here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in full agreement here. Eagles, went on the road to New England, got that tough, fought victory there. Feels like Jalen Hurts didn't even have to ramp himself up to full capacity in that one. Kind of looking to Kenneth Gainwell as being maybe their new feature back there. Obviously, disperse the ball enough around, to the wide receiver core. I mean, Devontae Smith got a score. AJ Brown looked solid enough. And Jake Elliott, 4 for 4 in field goals. It kind of felt like overall they're getting help from all ends. We know about the defense. It was notorious last year at just shutting down teams. And yeah, with Minnesota just not looking super sharp in game one, little rocky against a team that we don't think is really going to do much in the Tampa Bay Bucks. I feel like we can dig into all the analytics we really want here, but Philly at home, first game in Philly for the season for them, and kind of going up a team against a team in the Minnesota Vikings that has lost a lot of key contributors from last year and just kind of feels like a very middle of the road type team.
Yeah, I kind of feel down about the Vikings now. I think we could definitely talk about our last place NFC North team for both of us and everything that we had. But man, this Vikings team did not start off pretty well. So I don't feel too good about them right now. I might pivot and have them finishing last if maybe there was not another NFC North team that looked pretty damn bad too this past week. So, hey, it's week one. Let's not panic. Let's not panic. Everything's fine. But at the same time, at least in this first 2 weeks, I feel like yeah, Vikings are gonna start at 0-2. I just think that everything's kind of aligning towards that for them.
Yeah, I mean, personally for them, if they have expectations this year of doing anything playoff wise, I think they should be panicking. I mean, for those types of fans, because I don't see where they made improvements. I don't see where this team improves upon, a lot of the, close fought victories they had last year, getting to 13 wins, kind of an early exit first round. Feels like the juju's a little bit off. Jay Jets didn't sign the extension, so it seems like he's probably 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Feels like a similar situation for Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. It's kind of like if everybody's not really all in, especially their top key performers. I mean, that's going to be hard year, and he'll put up his numbers, but he may not have his full heart in it, which is definitely going to impact them. But with Philly too, the only other thing I'd say is they lost Javon Hargrave. People have been talking about how his defense may have taken a hit from last year, but Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter each got a sack last week, which I thought you know, first games in, kind of filling in those, shoes, it did pretty well. So, New England's no pushover when it comes to how they run their offense, their team. So, just in general, I feel like Philly's, next man up kind of attitude is going to work well for them. And yeah, they're riding the high from, performing really well in last year's Super Bowl, coming up a little bit short. I think they're, really hungry to kind of get established here.
Yeah, no, it was interesting that Gainwell got like a majority of the carries there, right? All the DeAndre Swift fantasy owners have probably felt a little distraught, but no, to your point, this Eagles team, I think they performed fine. Again, Patriots, at Foxborough, that's always a tough matchup there. So I feel like if I'm an Eagles fan going into week 2 here, kind of even with all the injuries. Hopefully that's not too severe. I think with Kobe Dean and James Bradbury, it might be like a couple weeks there. But yeah, having to your point, like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis having sacks there, I think that's really good for their young defensive talent that they have there. For all the Georgia people. So no, a good overall win, I think, from the Eagles standpoint. And yeah, it should be. I don't know. I think that a 7 point spread. I feel like they can definitely beat that here.
Gotcha. Moving on to the Sunday slate, we have the Green Bay Packers traveling on the road against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, man, that Packers team. They look pretty good. And I mean, at the same time, the Falcons team looked pretty good too. That being said, I just don't see Desmond Ritter being like that X factor at all. I think that the Falcons would just have to run over this Packers defense, but at the same time, and I understand this Packers defense, the run defense in particular, like maybe wasn't always the best, but if they're just focused, they have the defensive talent. If they're just focused on like, hey, let's just stop or minimize this Falcons offensive line from pushing and creating those crevices for, Bijan and Algier, then it's like, okay, maybe let's force Desmond Ritter to actually pass the ball. Let's see if we can create turnovers, etc. Falcons will, they'll have to play their usual like clean game on the offensive side, not turning over the ball, moving the ball as much as possible. But the Packers, they have the defensive talent to accomplish that, just stopping them on defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball for the Packers, I feel like the Falcons defense they did upgrade with Bates and everything, and I think he got 2 interceptions there. Falcons were able to create some sort of pass rush, but I don't think they create that same pass rush with the Packers offensive line. I think the Packers offensive line, albeit it was against the Bears defensive line and such, they performed pretty well. Jordan Love stood pretty tall in the pocket there, and I think they'll also be able to run the ball some. I think the Packers are definitely a run first team, and I think they'll be able to control the ball some. So for me, I think Packers. I got them here. Maybe by a field goal or something like that.
Sounds good. It's our first disagreement, so that's nice. I'm still a little bit bearish on the Packers, no pun intended. They actually had a really great game in Chicago. All facets of the game, they pretty much disabled the Bears, which was a complete letdown for us as far as our energy and everything we thought would kind of happen in that game. But no, I loved what Atlanta did. I mean, bear in mind this is the Carolina Panthers they were going up against, but Carolina coming into the year from some defensive ranking analysts were putting them in the top 8. Some had them in the top 5, which Algier and Bijan Robinson both ate. And I think that Arthur Smith plays such an untraditional type of game of football that this might put a couple of teams at the start on their heels, like not really understanding how to really scheme for it, how to plan for it, throws them off just a touch. Desmond Ritter, for what it's worth, I mean, 15 for 18, no picks, no touchdowns, obviously either, but efficient with the passes that he actually threw. He got it to his guys when he needed to. Now, Drake London, I mean, one target, nothing on the board. Kyle Pitts, very little as well.
Yeah.
I just feel like at some point when Ritter's going to be relied upon, for making more passes to his top, weapons on the outside. I think that establishing a great run game is really going to open up space for him to be able to make those kinds of passes. And we haven't seen it yet. We haven't really had to see it yet. So I feel pretty good about what Atlanta can establish on the offensive side of the ball. For Green Bay, Aaron Jones did have a hamstring pull throughout the game. I don't know if that's going to play a factor in this game at all. Maybe he gets over that hump and is completely healthy. But Jordan Love had a good game against the Bears. I won't take that away from him. But I just feel like maybe the Bears didn't come out inspired. Maybe the Bears took them for granted a little bit. I feel like Atlanta and Green Bay, as far as rankings have gone throughout the preseason on the defensive side, have been pretty comparable from what I've seen. I feel like I just have a little bit more faith right now in Atlanta's offense, and yeah, I'm just gonna give them the nod, man. I think at home, they're gonna come out of the gate a little bit, fiery, and yeah, I'm still needing another convincing Packers win to really, jump off of them being in the basement, because I was pretty much dogging them at the start of this year, and I'm gonna double down on that until they start stringing some wins together.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if they are able to get I think Christian Watson, right? He missed this past game, and Romeo Dubs I think got the two touchdown receptions, I believe, or he at least he at least played a factor in the game. So but yeah, adding in Watson, who I think is projected to come back here, playing in this game, I think that's another X factor to keep in mind of against the Falcons here. So for Jordan Love to kind of rely on there, and if he's able to showcase anything what he did from the last half of last season, then I definitely think that he can spur a big catch of some sort, or he can even take it off the a jet sweep of some sort as well. So just something to consider there as well for if you're bearish on the Packers, or bullish on the Packers, I should say. So
We shouldn't put any Bears or Bulls near the Packers if they want to. They want to keep winning. They'll steer clear of any sort of Chicago sports franchises. Names following them as
uh
well. But yeah, man. Yeah, no, I've said my piece. I feel pretty comfortable, at least picking in this one with Atlanta. I'm with you. Very tight game. I don't think this is going to be lopsided either way. But yeah, I'll just stick with my pick there.
Sounds good.
Moving on to the next one, we have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Wayne, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last time I checked was like Bills, like by 9 or something like that. So, I think the Bills come out, hot, right? Like they probably were pissed off of this whole Jets game, wow game, and everything. But it's hard for me to picture this Bills team going 0-2. I know I kind of had them, not kind of regressing a little bit, and I did pick the Jets to win the division there, and we could definitely talk about that later as the injury to Aaron Rodgers there, but Bills, I think this is kind of a vengeance game for them. Josh Allen, he's just going to be fierce, I feel like, and granted, this is a talented Raiders team, so I might actually go the under with regard, kind of in favor of the Raiders a little bit there, but they I think they might be able to get some pass rush with Max Crosby. They were pretty effective, I think, against I think they went against Denver in the last game. So and Denver has a decent line, an okay line, I would say. Maybe not great, but an okay line. Especially there also with Russell Wilson, who can scramble a little bit. So was able to get pressure against the Broncos there, and I think they could get some pressure with the Bills, but. Yeah, I just feel like the Bills, they're going to be hungry. both on the defensive side and with Josh Allen. So for me, I got to take the Bills here.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I mean, I was watching the game last night, for Monday Night Football, and Buffalo played so well on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, obviously no Aaron Rodgers, but were pretty controlling for most of the game, and took some later drives by Zach Wilson, kind of getting a little bit more comfortable with the offense to make that pass over to Garrett Wilson and get the touchdown. It was pretty acrobatic, like the hands were all over the place on the ball, and he made a great catch, but. The one thing that, I felt hurt them is just kind of like their heart. I think we're talking about, where Minnesota's at. I think Minnesota's a far worse team than Buffalo, obviously. Buffalo, I had kind of going all the way, as the one seed in, and hopefully this is the game that gets them on track to just doing what they're supposed to do. There's that element of doubt in me with this team overall and just how they came out and, just kind of let the Jets just walk off and win the game. I felt like it didn't even feel like they were, make an effort to make that tackle on the punt return by Xavier Gibson. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe it was just the first game and being on the road and kind of, losing that lead late in the game was a little dejecting for them. But 13 points, three interceptions by Josh Allen, a fumble lost as well. It's just that doesn't seem like him really. That's not really what Josh Allen's been over the last few years. And I mean, if there's a game that you need to kind of, correct yourself, it'd probably be the Raiders coming into town right now. Jimmy G, for what it's worth, had a respectable line against Denver. Like Jacoby Myers had a really good game. Devontae Adams put up some numbers. Josh Jacobs was a little bit quiet. Yeah, and overall, it felt like both defenses, Denver and Las Vegas, just kind of tied each other up. So, still, I mean, it's hard to understand like really what the Raiders are, what they're going to be from like an upside perspective. I just kind of feel like they're just there, and I definitely see them as being the worst team in the AFC West. So yeah, for what it's worth, whether or not the Bills beat them by 9 points or more, I think they win by at least one touchdown, and yeah, I think they get themselves back on the right track.
Yeah, I mean it's always gonna be curious now. I think with the Jacoby Myers for all the fantasy owners out there, right? I think he had two touchdowns in the last game, right? So, and I think he was. It's because I think Devontae Adams was going against Patrick Surtain, so it's kind of like, all right, whoever goes against Devontae or whoever is like the second cornerback over there, that could definitely be something for Jacoby Myers owners over there. So, and I feel like, yeah, with the Bills, I think for who the sportscaster who was talking about it, but yeah, like on the Monday Night Football for cast, they were basically saying, why aren't they tossing to? I think Garrett Wilson actually was on somebody else, or somebody else was going against him besides White. So, Christian Benford, yeah. So if that's the case, then that could be something to look at forward to, see if Jacoby Myers can let loose and kind of win that matchup, because I think he could. But to your point, Bills, I think, come hungry. The defensive side of the ball, I think they'll make enough plays there, and yeah, I think the Bills will win this fairly convincingly.
Yeah, I think the Bills really need to focus on incorporating more pieces of their offense into their attack. I mean, kind of looking at some of the stat line, watching some of the game. I mean, Stephon Diggs was the only thing, really, really standing out and shining for Buffalo. I mean, the rest of the wide receivers barely, were targeted, came up successful in their, catches, conversions, things like that. The run game was pretty much non-existent. It was just a pretty anemic performance there. Obviously, Josh had a bunch of turnovers, so that's going to contribute to it. And they're playing, probably one of the best defenses in the NFL. So that's another. So this will be kind of a prove it game, and I expect them to, like you said, come out hungry.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, I think they'll make a better effort, I think, going into this game. So
Definitely. In the next one, we've got the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. Wayne, who do you have here?
yeah, I mean, think this will be a great game, but I think it's going to be kind of the similar thing. I think with regards to the Bills too, is I think they're going Bengals. I think they're going to come out a lot hungrier at home. against a division rival. I think it's at 3.5, but I feel like, against the Ravens, Ravens got a little banged up, yes, last week or this previous game. So, uh, although I think, they're losing what Marcus Williams, I think he's going to be out. Dobbins, Stanley, left tackle, Linderbaum. So, offensive line's a little depleted there. I think they're looking forward to at least getting, I think, Marlon Humphrey back, and then Mark Andrews, I think, also looks like he might be playing. So, I mean, those are definitely some pluses there. Two of their overall, probably their best players, I would say. So, but again, this Bengals team, I think they're probably disappointed with how they played against the Browns because they got demolished. And I could definitely talk about how well the Browns have been playing. So, but yeah, this Bengals team, I think they'll come out, uh, yeah, kind of with a fire underneath them, similar to the Bills, and I think they'll pull it off. I think it'll be close. It'll be a grind. Zay Flowers looked really good. I told you that guy's twitchy, and he was like dodging bullets out there. It felt like so, like Neo in the Matrix. But man, yeah, I just feel like, this division's gonna be tough. But Bengals at home, I think they can pull it off here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I have the Bengals too. I feel like the Dobbins injury is such a backbreaker for them because you could see how much Lamar had to put on his shoulders, especially in the running game when he was with a collection of running backs. And, again, we're going back to this collection, and you swap out Kenyon Drake for Melvin Gordon, or, now you're bringing back Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. Like we've been through this experience before in Baltimore, right? And Dobbins just represented something that just kind of was a game changer in um, kind of foresight. Like I feel like on paper, he's that game changer running back that Baltimore really needs to take that pressure off of Lamar. Now he's completely out. He's done for the year. Again, it's just a backbreaker. And I like what you said about Zay Flowers. I mean, it reminds me a lot of having Marquise Brown there for him helps open up the passing game for others. Bateman had a slow game. Odell, hasn't played since last year. I just feel like a lot of their weapons may need some time to just gel together a little bit more. And I mean, the defense is always going to be solid. That's the thing you can always kind of bank on with the Ravens. Like they came out, and I think three of their defensive players, especially Patrick Queen, Roquan, Brandon Stevens, a corner. I mean, they were, making tackles, being there to break up passes. Obviously, had some sacks. It was, just kind of all gears go against, a pretty lowly Houston team at this point. So, that said, for the Bengals to just kind of, come out and play pretty flat against Cleveland, who, I think we've underestimated just a touch, but, you know, Joe Burrow is not going to be throwing for just 80 yards per game, and you kind of come back home. There's no way they'd be able to kind of stomach an embarrassing loss like that on their home field. Their defense has taken a little bit of a hit. I mean, they're playing with a brand new secondary. I think in this matchup, if the secondary just needs some time to kind of ease in, I think Lamar, obviously isn't some sort of prolific passer where that's got to be, playing at an elite level or anything to stop him per se. But yeah, I expect, and I think we expect a lot more out of Cincinnati this year. I have them going all the way. So I have to double down again here and take them at home. This one will be obviously close, but I think the Bengals edge it out and get on the board with the win.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals started slow last year. I think this is kind of how it is. I think Chris Sims talked about this a little bit about. It always feels like the Bengals, they kind of just see what happens in the first couple weeks, kind of just coast a little bit. Like he says, like their offense actually isn't too exotic or anything, and then after some film and such, Joe Burrow kind of just looks into it and be like, and just kind of makes the adjustments as the season goes along. So I'm like, okay, that's one way to go, and I guess it's proven successful for them the past couple of seasons. Going to AFC Championship games and such. So, but yeah, at the same time, yeah, I don't see. I mean, this will be a close game regardless. I definitely agree with that, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens pull it off. They looked a little sloppy on the offensive side. The Ravens did. I think Lamar like fumbled a couple times, and I think he lost maybe one and then maybe got the other one back. So just felt like they were a little bit off rhythm here and there. Obviously, I don't think they had Mark Andrews, so that definitely deterred them of, your top tight end there, kind of like similar to Patrick Mahomes not having Kelsey. So for me, it was definitely just not a good showing, I think, from the Ravens offensive side, albeit Zay Flowers, I think, was really effective there, and a couple moments there with Dobbins. So all the Justice Hill fans out there, I think they were excited to see him getting two touchdowns. But yeah, I definitely see, for me at least, I think the Bengals will bounce back here. So
No doubt. In this next one, we have the Seattle Seahawks going on the road to play the Detroit Lions. Wayne, who do you have here?
man, this is gonna be a fun one. I feel like because the Lions coming off of that awesome road win right against Kansas City. Fresh off their Super Bowl win, albeit they didn't have Kelsey and Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones is just signed that big contract now, and or I think he signed like a 1 year deal of some sort. Just to kind of start playing again. So. But he might not be completely fresh. I don't think he had any training camp reps or anything like that or preseason reps. So could I'll be he's a veteran. He's been there before. Has probably kept in shape and such, but he may not. Uh, you know, or as I say that, I think the Lions though, uh, they're gonna be moving the ball. I think against the Seahawks team here. I think that's gonna be the key thing for them. So, I don't see. I think the Seahawks. They struggled against the Rams, right? Coming off of that defeat there. So for me, you know, Matthew Stafford played a really clean game. I think the Lions they really don't make mistakes. Jared Goff doesn't really throw too many interceptions, and then they're have a good run game, good offensive line. So I got to go with the Lions here. It's gonna really be really hard to see. I think the Seahawks going 0-2 because I think I had them coming in second in the NFC West over there, but man, this Lions team, I think a lot of momentum is happening for them right now. So I feel like, yeah, they'll have a victory here, but I think it's at 6 now, at 5.5 now actually. So uh, that's gonna be a tough one. I feel like so, but it'll be close. But Lions, I think I have winning this.
Yeah, I'm with you. Mike Tirico basically said on Thursday night that they, should put an asterisk on the win for Detroit, given that KC didn't have Kelsey or Chris Jones. It doesn't work like that in the NFL. Wins are wins. They all matter, no matter how you get them. If anything, that's great bulletin board material for them going, at home against Seattle, who obviously had just a major, blow up loss to the LA Rams. And, I think a lot of us are thinking LA Rams would be, top five of the draft. Maybe that's still the case. But what does it say about Seattle? I mean, without knowing where the Rams actually go this year, I mean, that's just a terrible performance at home against a team that, I think a lot of us were like, hey, no Cooper Cup, what are you going to do, Tyler Higbee? But, Puka Nakua just kind of came out and, became the new Cooper Cup in that game. So, it's just, yeah, it just definitely doesn't show well for Seattle. Now they go on the road. They face a team who I think had the best draft, and I think a lot of those guys played a major, role in the win against KC. Brian Branch, brought back uh, it was an interception, but more or less Kadarius Toney just botching it, and Branch bringing it back to the house. No matter what, he was in the right position at the right time. Jameer Gibbs looked electric. His stats won't say as much as what I think I saw others saw. Just seeing him play, and then Sam Laporta was involved in the offense. I mean, I think he had 6 catches in his rookie debut. I mean, I think they're doing the right things. They're plugging the holes where they need to, kind of plug them. Monty, he looked great. I mean, he looked like a borderline, bell cow type back, and you pair that with Gibbs to kind of do the thunder lightning approach. The offense looks good. Goff's a steady hand, and it just feels like this team's really united. I think overall, the way that Detroit's kind of come out so far and, what we saw from last year, it's like, I think, just being all in, heart, I think this is one of the most united teams in the league. Whether or not they have the talent to, go to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl or something like that this year is one thing, but you can kind of see the building blocks, the momentum kind of building in, Detroit. And I think this is the kind of game that, again, will get them on the board in the positive way, move them forward at 2-0. And, I definitely see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing too, I guess, to not to completely smack talk the Seahawks, but yeah, their offensive line performed really poorly against albeit the Rams have Aaron Donald, but they've got rid of a lot of other pass rushers, and that defense kind of has a no name apart from Aaron Donald over there. So not to disrespect the Rams, but yeah, the Seahawks. I think I heard that they were actually looking at maybe bringing in some other offensive line talent. So like that's just how bad that they perform there. So and you're going against the Lions, hungry defense. Aiden Hutchinson over there as well. So it's like they're going to be bringing their A game if just because that's how their mentality is now. With Dan Campbell there. So Seahawks, yeah, it's first two games of the seasons. I think that those two oftentimes look fairly similar. So it's going to be a little bit a little longer, I think, before they can get some of the kinks out. But hopefully they will for their sake. But yeah, Lions here, that's a tough matchup to kind of bounce back from that LA Rams defeat.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm with you. Don't have much else to say, about Seattle right now. I think they're a better team than what they showed in week one. I'd like to say that, especially based on last year's performance. Kenneth Walker definitely felt like he was obviously, the feature back in the offense. Receiving core didn't do much with, Gino having south of like 150 yards passing. So, again, maybe the Rams were giving him fits. Can the Lions do the same thing? Perhaps, but I think Gino's a better quarterback than that too. So while Detroit's given 6 points, 5.5 points, whatever you're looking at, I think this one's going to be pretty tight. And I think the Lions edge them out, but I think there's a little bit more fight in Seattle that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah, for sure. They have way too much talent in the passing game to put up that performance. And yeah, I get the Rams have maybe they are an overlooked team, just getting rid of all that defensive talent, but then also having Aaron Donald in there, like such a crucial piece that he is. So, but yeah, when you got DK, when you got Lockett and JSN, it's like how do you you kind of have to accidentally stumble upon like barely like 100 passing yards there. So yeah, just a bad performance there, but hopefully they can bounce back. But it's just gonna be really tough against this Lions defense.
For sure. Moving on to the next one, we've got the LA Chargers going to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Wayne, who do you have here?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people kind of expect a kind of a bounce back from the Titans and like Vrabel, but I don't know. I think you posted something about like Tannehill and his like snooty attitude towards his I think he had like 3 interceptions or 2 interceptions or something like that in the last game, and it's like,
Three.
yeah, what? Yeah, three. Yeah, he was like whatever or something like that, right? So, yeah, I got the Chargers taking this one. I think it's a 3 point. I think they're a 3 point favorite here. They might just surpass that. I know it's at Tennessee, but the Chargers, they tried to contain that Miami Dolphins defense or offense, I should say, and they just got obliterated by Hill. And I think sometimes we forget how good Hill is and just getting that separation, and they just did not have the answer to that. So they scored, I think, 33 some odd points there against the Miami Dolphins defense, albeit without Jalen Ramsey, but it's a Vic Fangio defense there. So I think they'll, put up some points here against, a tough Titans defense. But I will say, I think Titans had like one of the worst passing offenses or passing defenses last season. Not they had the best rushing defense though at the same time. So I just think that that's going to play a factor going against Justin Herbert. Just not a good matchup, I think, for the Titans here. So, yeah, I think I picked the Chargers here. I think they might go over, actually. I think they'll win fairly convincingly, in my opinion, against the Titans.
Yeah. The only thing that holds me up from joining right in on kind of them beating up on them is Tennessee's defense. I feel like that's the one thing that will hold them solid enough. I mean, I agree with you. I think that every single one of the main position players at Tennessee just looks a year older, whether it's Tannehill, going from being a competent to average quarterback to just looking like, he's on his last string here. Derrick Henry got a handful of, totes against New Orleans and just, really put up a very mediocre game. DeAndre Hopkins got involved in the offense, but in the same sense, it wasn't really, anything earth shattering. Again, if your quarterback's throwing 3 picks, I mean, it's going to lead to stuff like that. So it kind of starts with Tannehill, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and it's just, not something that's going to be super encouraging for them throughout the year. Uh, Los Angeles, for what it's worth on offense, top two performance as a whole team. Going up against Miami, they were number one. But yeah, I mean, what's not to like? You got obviously one of the better quarterbacks in the game. Now they have two running backs potentially that could be feature backs in a sense with Eckler and Kelly. Obviously, the receiving core got a ton of work in. They're incorporating Quentin Johnston in there, but in the same sense, like they're big, you know, two basically eight for most of the game, and yeah, I mean the defense was really nothing to get excited about, at least for LA, giving up the most yards for any defense last year, or for last week, I should say. But if you're going up against Tennessee, I think even if the defense doesn't, you know, uh, shut down, Tannehill and folks, it's like how many points can Tennessee really put on the board against LA, and then in return, how solid is Tennessee's defense to stop what we think is like probably a bona fide top five offense in the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I'm just kind of going at there. Chargers are gonna put up some points here. I feel like, Titans. Yeah, they do have a pretty solid defense overall, and that's always kept in the games in the past. And that is, I guess, where I'm a little bit hesitant. But I'm just looking at like that. The Chargers and their defense is healthier. I think last compared to where they were last season. Last season. They were one of the worst, I think, top five worst like rushing defenses. But that was because they were just all getting hurt there. So now that they're a little bit healthier, I feel like they can shut down Henry some. And then yeah, if Tannehill is still playing like by week 8, I would be surprised. I don't know what the over under is on Tannehill being there past that. So for me, again, his snooty attitude kind of going after that game, I think it could possibly carry into this next game here. And that's just where I feel like, yeah, it could be, a bunch of points put on the board by the Chargers there, and maybe not as much from the Titans.
Fair enough. Moving on to the next one, we got our Chicago Bears traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Wayne, who do you got this in this one?
Man, do I got a beer here or something like that or what? But man, this Bears team, let me tell you, I do not like the coaching that this Bears team has distributed here. So, whether it's Getsy or Eberflus or whomever, like the game planning this past game was atrocious. Getting DJ Moore 2 targets. You spend all this whole offseason, right? Kind of, you got him, traded that first overall pick, and he was included that part of that trade. Claypool, worst trade. I feel like we in Bears recent memory with regards to that, like basically trading him for a first round pick. So you could use some offensive line with that pick that we traded him for. So the only I think bright spot was probably like seeing Roshan and then Mooney as well. Justin Fields didn't have the best performance. Missed a couple of receivers. Again, his progressions, it's still not there. I don't think he's progressed compared to what he was last season, at least in his first game, albeit. So for me, it's kind of hard to cheer for the Bears or go for the Bears at this point. And the Bucks, they had a very team oriented win, I would say, this past game. So for me, I kind of have to go with the Bucks here, reluctantly in a way, but we sometimes forget that this Bucks team kind of has a lot of the talent that they had when they won the Super Bowl, albeit they don't have Tom Brady to go. But They still have Shaq Barrett, who's fairly healthy. He's at age 30, maybe slowing down a little bit, but he's definitely is a player that's able to create a pass rush. They got Vita Villa, it's like one of the best like run stuffers in the game there. So, if the Bears are going to be able to run the ball, it's going to be really challenging. And the Bucks also have really talented defenders there with was it David, and I think they also got White. So for me, it's just not a good matchup. I feel like too going against the Bucks here on the road. Baker Mayfield, he'll make enough plays, I think, with those big wideouts that he has. And then hopefully also the on the defensive side for the Bears, they don't play as much soft zone defense because they don't have the personnel for that. Like they got big cornerbacks. Like why not, play a little bit of press coverage? I feel like so that's just bad game planning, bad coaching, not setting our team up for success. So for me, because of all that, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Bucks here.
It's a good pick. I was a little torn on this one. Like you're saying, I mean, DJ Moore not getting really involved at all on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, even the run game, I mean, to kind of as a combination of, three or four rushers to put up like, only a 4 yard per carry kind of average. It just kind of felt like they were just plodding along in that game. Yeah, I don't know what to really make of it just yet as far as, what the Bears really need to do, what identity they're trying to establish. Like, are they trying to go with the Arthur Smith approach to just running down your throat and this and that? But the thing that really, stood out to me, and I watched some videos that were circulating online, but, if they are going to go with a run heavy approach, they need guys like Claypool to step up and block and to be energized and to be into that kind of role. I mean, I know it's different for a lot of guys if you're just used to catching balls and kind of being in a pass heavy offense to be asked to block majority of the time, but that just comes out with like coaching, comes out with what's inside each player. Claypool was getting dogged a lot by Mike Tomlin in his final years in Pittsburgh, and maybe they were happy to just offload him for whatever they could get, and they got a second round pick out of it, and now we're looking pretty foolish because of it. So um, I think heart really matters in this sense, and we haven't really seen it yet in Chicago, even though we've really enjoyed this rebuild so far. But I'm totally with you on Luke Getsy and kind of you know we got to figure out what's going to be the right approach for us. But DJ Moore getting 2 targets after making that big trade, like that's unacceptable. I mean, we really need to modernize this offense. Get Justin a little bit off his feet here and there. I mean, try to find like the Lamar Jackson type approach with him where, yeah, he can be a game breaker, but in the same sense, like Lamar had to go through a lot of, changes to really move that offense a little bit more in Baltimore. So, um, you know, I'd like to see changes on that side of the ball. And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you're saying, Tampa Bay to me, if Baker Mayfield can just be a good quarterback this year, competent quarterback, they have a lot of team around him. I mean, I like their defense. Their pass catchers are pretty darn good. Like they've got a pretty nice stable of receivers there. The running game, we're not really sure just yet, but I think Baker's looking at himself too, like staring in the mirror and going, "Hey, if I just play well, I think we've got a shot to be, competitive in the NFC South at the very least." So, um, I guess all this being said, I know I'm kind of being long-winded to the actual pick, but I'm gonna go with Chicago, man. This one's hard for me, but it's like I feel like these teams are kind of on par to me. I know, week one, obviously worked out for Tampa. It didn't work out for Chicago at all, but I don't know. I just like to think that Justin, at the very least, has, the locker room. I think that he has the heart. I think he can play better football than what he, obviously showed in game one there. But yeah, man, I hope everybody in that locker room in Chicago, can do some soul searching here. I'd hate to see them start off 0-2 to kick off this year. I obviously have lesser expectations over the course of the year, but against a team like Tampa, where I think you should be kind of cleaning up, I think they win by a slight margin here.
Yeah. I mean, they got to, I feel like, because next week, I think it's Kansas City. So, like, I don't know. That's going to be a tough, and I think that's at Kansas City as well. So, that's going to be a tough road game there. So, that could potentially be 0-3 if they don't win this game. And it's like, all the trades, all the off-season transactions and such, right? All this turnover that we've had now, and continuity with our coaching staff. It's like it's gonna be on us then if it's gonna be on those coaches then, and Justin Fields if they don't progress, and being 0-3, that's not gonna be a good foundation for the season for sure. So. I would definitely want to win here. It's just it feels like we're kind of far off compared to I think how the Bucks played, but you know, any given Sunday, a lot of different things can happen. Maybe they do realize that we do have DJ Moore out there. Maybe we got to pass him the ball. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's pretty simple. Like we saw DJ Moore when he was getting the targets. He was pretty effective there. And then yeah, Mooney too. Like we didn't really go downfield. It was very much like screen passes, like the John Shoop days of Bears football. And it's like yeah, we get that wide receiver now for Justin Fields. And I was looking at some of the first games of those wide receivers, right, that we talked about for young quarterbacks out there. AJ Brown and I think Diggs, both of them come to mind. AJ Brown, first game he had 13 targets. 13 targets. Give him the damn ball. Diggs had nine targets there. Give him the damn ball. Like, don't overthink it. I know you got Jair Alexander over there or Douglas on him. Give him the damn ball. Like, pretty simple. So, I don't know. There was just dumb game planning. I think Luke Getsy. My eyes on him. Like, you better show up, or you're gonna be gone by this season.
Yeah. One question for you and what you've heard around Chicago, but a lot of backlash and kind of fan talk after the game was like pointing to organization. Like talking about ownership and like needing to sell the team or something like that. Like in week one, given everything, like what influence do you think ownership had on this game, or like what is it that fans are crying about in week one when it concerns upper management too?
Man, I don't know. I think because it's like the management, right? They definitely. It's like, are we just focused on the stadium in Arlington Heights, like trying to play that whole game at the city, or are we actually concerned about bringing a good football team to Chicago? And I think that's where sometimes there's that feeling of a disconnect where we oftentimes hear more news, with regards to the stadium and like, oh, maybe we are looking into the city and seeing if there's another option to stay in the city. But it's like, well, you already, kind of have the whole stadium out there, or the land rights, right, for Arlington Heights. So why don't we just go all in on that, focus on that? So I think there's just a little bit of like, where is your mindset on? Like, I know you can do a little bit both at one time, but like, get one of those things right first and then move on to the next, right? So I think that's why, or that's just the overall feeling with where is this, kind of where the McCaskies set on. I know there's some respect for Virginia McCaskey, but like for the rest of the McCaskies that kind of run more of the day-to-day operations now, I feel like it's just, where's are you guys just focused on money basically? So I think that's where the sentiment is, and I think we brought in polling, I believe, in this the previous offseason, right, to get polls, and then also the hiring of Matt Eberflus. But it's like there's this sentiment, I feel like, especially after this loss, like, is this the same damn stuff? Like losing to the Packers again? Like they just been owning us, and I think there's just that sentiment of like we're sick of it losing to the Packers, kind of the same old fashioned way, and it's like this team just has us, around our necks. Like they just have something against us. So, yeah, just a lot of pissed offness, a lot of. I don't think I've heard like one radio station being any ounce of optimism whatsoever with regards to this showing. I think from the Bears, Justin Fields, definitely Luke Getsy, awful game plan, and kind of all those things, I think. And then it's like, man, again, the Packers, like, come on now.
Yeah. And on the flip side, like a lot of people point to the Green Bay organization as being just resilient, being strong, being able to make, tough decisions and always putting together, a solid enough team. I mean, they've had some struggles recently, and just kind of maintaining their more or less dominant status in the NFC North. But But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think as we go through this year, I mean, again, my expectations aren't super high. I didn't love what they did on the defensive side of the ball in the offseason. I didn't love our draft. I liked it at the very best. So, we're still building on a nucleus. We're trying to figure out who's in that nucleus, because even if we get super excited about guys like Mooney, Komet, some of the running backs we're talking about, like we still haven't seen much. We still haven't seen what we need to see to be like, yeah, you're a bona fide starting tight end in this league, or yes, like you are a wide receiver too that we can depend on always. And it's always like a lot of name cachet, a lot of like name value that we see on paper that we in some ways kind of create for ourselves too, but they really got to start showing us a lot more. And winning games is another thing, but like really effort, energy, heart, we just haven't seen a lot of it in the last handful of seasons now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I feel like some of that has to do with coaching too. And a lot of people. I think I was talking with a friend today. It's at work. It was like, is this like Eberflus? Like, seems like a nice guy. Seems like a genuinely nice guy and everything like that. But in the end of the day, right, in this NFL environment, like we got to be able to win too. So you can be the saint, the mayor, and all that. Maybe not Chicago mayor, but you can be a mayor of some sort. But if you win, hey, that's great. Great personality and all that. That's all awesome. But I think part of Chicago too is like, we'll take an asshole for sure. But if you win, all is forgiven. All is forgiven. I think just the Chicago way of viewing sports teams and such. So, whether it be like an Ozzie Guillen, right, who's very verbose and such, or even like Mike Ditka, like he's just someone that's very vocal, no nonsense. Like we're definitely much more in favor of that if it brings the results of winning. And Eberflus is kind of just the opposite right now. And yeah, something's got to change. Something's got to happen. Hopefully they do make the adjustments. Give DJ Moore the ball a little bit more. So yeah, because the Bucks, they'll definitely be like, yeah, go ahead, pass the ball, Justin Fields. We'll cover the run, and I think that's probably what will be game planning for. So
Yeah. And on Eberflus, he may very well be a good coach. He might be a good defensive coordinator. He might be a good DB's coach, a linebacker coach. We don't know. I mean, I feel like he may get the most out of it out of certain players. I've heard he's pretty good at uh, kind of using a little bit of the carrot and the stick with guys. I mean, I know he's put certain like tags on folks' jerseys who aren't giving enough effort, and like has had debates with players, like allowing them to have voice and telling them like what they're actually putting forward. And I think the guys like playing for him, but when we look at coaches in the NFL, there's like a subset of coaches that are like borderline geniuses who are creating schemes and creating, playbooks that trump any of like the other 20 plus organizations in the league. And it's like, hey, Eberflus may be a good coach, but like, is that enough? Like, we need guys who are going to come in here and nerd it up and like really take this team to a different level creatively, that we've never been able to see in the Chicago, organization, because it's been just so mired by mediocrity and kind of the same names just in the same seats for so long. And I'm glad they've started to drain that swamp a little bit, but again, like there are only a handful of these elite type coaches in the league that are, finding themselves in Super Bowls and other things and kind of consistently, playing 600 type football. And, we're just not there. We're not, that just yet. But, hey, at the very least, I think we can pull out a win in Tampa. Whether it happens or not is another thing, but I think we're capable of winning this weekend.
yeah, and I think the betting odds are kind of in favor of the Bears there. I think a lot of people are picking that under. I think yeah, the Bucks are favored at 3, so I do think that there's some optimism for the Bears bouncing back a little bit, or maybe pulling off the win here against a Bucks team who they've always been kind of known as like, yeah, they can be a really great team, kind of like, or a team that grinds it out, has those great team wins, but or a team that commits turnovers, blows coverages and such, right? So this definitely could be hopefully a win for the Bears, and hopefully progression in the right direction for us.
For sure. Moving on, we've got Kansas City going into Jacksonville, take on the Jaguars. Wayne, who are you picking here?
This might be my hot take, but I got the Jaguars. Kelsey. He's been a little bit busy. I've been hearing now. He's been like dating Taylor Swift over there or something like that. So meanwhile, like the Kansas City Chiefs have been struggling a little bit on offense. The wide receivers dropping balls, turning into pick sixes. I know I had a lot of high hopes. I think on Sky Moore, he dropped, or I think he had 3 targets, no receptions there. So, yeah, somebody's gonna have to step up on the wide receiver department, whether it's Watson or MVS gets a little bit more of the workload. We'll see how effective Travis Kelsey is. I mean, 80% effective Travis Kelsey is still like a Hall of Famer, right? So, at that tight end position, Owen Gray was probably their best wide receiver, I think, this past game. But man, like just not a good showing. They had moments where they could have pulled off the victory, but yeah, the wide receivers did not show up. Tony, man, like again, week one, let's not panic, but that was just not a good showing. Jaguars, they had some up and downs in that game, against the Colts, but like I mentioned before, I think the Colts they can definitely be kind of that surpriser team, but I think maybe in the later half of the season, I think Anthony Richardson's just going to get a little bit more seasoning. I think down, a little bit more comfort with the passing game. Showed pretty good numbers overall. I think this pass game for Anthony Richardson, but yeah, again going back to the Jags and the Chiefs, I think I saw a lot of bright spots. I think for the Jags, obviously some things to clean up, but at home, that's definitely where I feel like get some of that home cooking against the Chiefs. Chris Jones, I don't know how effective he's going to be. Again, I was kind of mentioning before, not getting too many reps from training camp. Like, I don't know if he's at playing shape at the moment. Still can be an effective player there on the defensive side, but, just a lot of question marks, I think. And then, yeah, Kelsey, again, how effective is he going to be physically? How, mentally? Again, Taylor Swift. Sorry for all the Swifties out there, but just not the best track record. Not the best track record, I think. With there, not a Kardashian at least, but still not the best track record there. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel for me, maybe I'm going off of the recency bias of the Chiefs. I know it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs going down 0-2, defending champs, right? With a similar team as they had last season. I just feel like the Jags, Doug Peterson, right? Trevor Lawrence, I think, played pretty well overall. And, seemed like he had good rhythm with Calvin Ridley. Probably would like to see if he can get a better rhythm too with Christian Kirk a little bit more so, but, we'll see on that. And, on the defensive side too, if they can get a turnover, maybe similar to like, I don't know if Patrick Mahomes passes to Tony again and he misses the ball again or something like that, that could be a big thing too. So, but yeah, for me, I don't know. I'm going to go with, Jaguars pulling off the upset here. I think they're +3, might take that, those odds there. So,
Yeah, I'm going right there with you, man. I'm actually yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the Jaguars. You know, this is a revenge game for them. They got knocked out by the Chiefs last year. They quickly get to kind of redeem themselves here at home. Obviously, like you said, like they didn't come out on fire against Indy, but still happened to beat them by 10 points at the very end. I too would like to see Kirk get more involved. I still, obviously didn't have many targets, but hey, Calvin Ridley had a show out game. So did Zay Jones. So it's a little bit understandable. I also like just having Bigsby and Etienne kind of pairing off in the backfield. Etienne, especially in the receiving game, like they have a very dynamic offense. Trevor Lawrence is taking another step. I mean, he is getting more comfortable at being, like a franchise cornerstone there. And at home, energized by their fans, I think they'll really come out and show out. And, my thing with KC, I mean, you mentioned Kelsey and Jones. I mean, those are two kind of question marks and very important question marks for KC. I mean, those are arguably like they're two other most important players after, Patrick Mahomes. Those two guys aren't fully there, fully healthy. Like that is a huge loss for them. And, you got to give Casey a lot of credit for only losing to Detroit by 1 point, when you think about it, because I'm really unimpressed with this roster. I'm really unimpressed. I mean, the defense itself came into this year kind of ranked around, the top 20 by most, respected rankings. Without Chris Jones, I think they're bottom seven, bottom eight in the league for sure. Um, but I even think more so than that, like when you do look at the wide receiver weapons now, it's a little scary, man. I mean, I feel like you can kind of count on MVS to be a solid wide receiver three, but we don't really know what Sky Moore's role is, like you said. We don't know, what you're going to get from Rashid Rice every night. I mean, Tony, that was an aberration. That was awful. I mean, that was just the effort, the jittery, ness in his game. I mean, it just seemed like he was scared to get the ball. He was scared to be out there, and he was making huge mistakes. I mean, a pick six, had a huge drop, at the end that probably would have, had them almost. They probably would have won the game had he made, one of those big catches in open space from Pat Mahomes and stuff. So I don't really know what to expect with the running game. It's like, Pacheco was fun last year, but he didn't have a great game to show out in the first game, and McKinnon's getting older. CEH, we don't really know what he is either. So it feels like there's just all this pressure on Patrick Mahomes to be, the Michael Jordan of football, and he pretty much is. But I mean, to go up against, playoff teams and just expect Patrick Mahomes to be able to do it, on his own, I mean, it's unsustainable. I think he gets his first win against the Bears in week 3, but yeah, I think the Jaguars take care of business at home.
Yeah, no, hey, look, we're on agreement on this now. Of course, just our luck and everything. Maybe the Chiefs make a blowout out of this, but no, I mean, honestly, like, there's this Jaguars team. Yeah, going against a very, in my opinion, it was an underrated, I think, Colts team, who showed pretty good, all round team effort. Like they had a pretty good defensive pass rush, etc., against Trevor Lawrence. So. They still have a lot of defensive talent, yeah, with Shaq Leonard over there as well. So for me, it was just, I think it was a good showing from the Jaguars, not the best showing of the Chiefs. That being said, it's still the Chiefs. They still can make some crazy plays there, some game changing plays there. And, with Travis Kelce, at least, possibly being back and everything, like that could put them over the hump. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the Jags, the momentum's a little bit more in their favor at the moment.
For sure. In our next game, we have the Indianapolis Colts going on the road against the Houston Texans. Wayne, who do you have?
Man, speaking of like, the Colts and having kind of an impressive, in my opinion, an impressive debut, I think, with regards to Anthony Richardson. I'm actually gonna have to go with the Texans here, actually. Yeah. I was actually pretty impressed with the Texans, albeit they lost by, I think, like 16 points against the Ravens. It's just that the Texans defense looked really good. They looked really good. I think with D'Amico Ryans now as the head coach, like instilling a game plan. They had, Will Anderson, Petre, and then also Stingley at the cornerback position as well. Like all those players had pretty solid games. So, again, against a pretty solid, or a lot of people are predicting like this is the best offense that Lamar Jackson, is gonna have, right? So, showed a pretty good showing against the Ravens there. I think they can continue some of those efforts here. Anthony Richardson, reminder, he is a rookie quarterback, first game on the road, so still got to figure out some stuff out there. And again, against Texans defense, they had a really good showing. Maybe they cause a few more turnovers there against Anthony Richardson, who a lot of people say he can only look at one side of the field, and D'Amico Ryan's going to be looking at that. So. Stroud though, didn't play the greatest game. I think he had like one fumble, but didn't commit any turnovers. They definitely lacked that like, explosive wide receiver. I feel like at least for the time being at the moment. So, but I think they'll make enough plays on the offensive side. Maybe Pierce is able to get a touchdown of some sort, or move the ball. But yeah, I actually have the Texans pulling off, I guess, a 1 point upset here. But yeah, winning the game and kind of taking at least one on the road here, or one at home here from the Colts.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not that I feel super excited about either squad, but would just say that, even with Stroud, having a fumble, I felt like his passing stats and even his completion rate was pretty high for, rookie debut, no picks. He got Collins involved. He got Robert Woods involved. I mean, again, like you said, these guys aren't game breakers in my opinion. They're more or less like solid parts in a lot of ways, but I feel like, if Stroud can be competent, obviously Damian Pierce has to kind of play out of his mind this year. I mean, I feel like, this is a year for him to really break out and kind of be, force back there. And I think they'll go as far as they can with, obviously a strong defense, but then as far as Damian Pierce can like kind of take them on his shoulders in year one of Stroud, because I think Stroud does need that top weapon, but I also think he just needs some more seasoning to, get comfortable in the NFL. So against Indy, who I'm just really low on this year, obviously, said my piece in last week and in the preseason, videos that we put together, but just very piecemeal type defense right now. In my opinion, they've lost some pretty important parts. Luckily for them, Shaq Leonard was healthy last week and hopefully can stay that way. I liked what I saw from Anthony Richardson just from a debut perspective. Obviously, did a lot with his legs, but also showed that he can pass the ball pretty decently. Got Pittman involved. I think that's going to be super important. I think that's the one guy you can kind of trust there. But yeah, like you said, I think Ryan schemes it pretty well here. I think, on the road that may add just a little bit more, but I also liked what I saw from Houston against Baltimore. I mean, I think the score was 10-3 at the half. I watched that pretty much entire first half on CBS on that 1 o'clock game, and I was like, man, they are really they're really putting it to at least Lamar, the rushing game and stuff. Like Baltimore didn't really do a lot on the ground overall. So if Houston can kind of just continue to move forward here, I think they're both these teams are kind of in the same place with their franchises. I think Houston just edges them out a little bit here.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. How about that? The Texans. Good showing.
We'll see. The next one, we have the San Francisco 49ers going on the road to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Wayne, who do you got?
Yeah, so I mean, I was kind of impressed. Yeah, seeing the Rams there, pulling off the upset, a pretty convincing upset, right? Kind of with like a bunch of no names on defense there against the Seahawks, but yeah, I mean, you kind of have to go with the 49ers. I think that maybe apart from the Cowboys, they look like the best team in football. Really, like they were just put on a shellacking against a really good Steelers team. So for me, this Niners team, like. At least early on this season, Brock Purdy, I think he's still undefeated. Like they look really good. So, yeah, I don't know what I can say other than yeah, this team is so good, and I think right now, at least right now, they can beat any team in the NFL. At least right now. So yeah, I got Niners taking this. I think that they're 8-point favorite. That's definitely a hard one to swallow against. Again against a kind of a scrappy, defensive maybe minded Rams team, but they might be able to pull that off again the way that they've been playing. Maybe they can get some turnovers, from Stafford. So, but yeah, I definitely really like the 49ers right now. They just been that was just a complete shellacking that they had against the Steelers, who I think we both picked, right? So yeah, that was an impressive effort.
Yeah, let me get back on the good side of any Niners fans here. I mean, that was a beatdown. Obviously, the Rams took care of the Seahawks as well, but this is a different level. I mean, they went into Pittsburgh 500 plus team. I think pretty, you know, um, we're pretty respected, in terms of our opinions on the Steelers itself, whether or not they end up in the standings as being, a top team in the AFC North is one thing, but I mean, we're just this is just a different caliber of football team here. And I know the Rams had a great game, but it's like we're talking about a Super Bowl contender here, a team that I've actually got in at least my predictions for the Super Bowl. But yeah, all systems go there. I mean, with the Rams running game kind of being inefficient, even in that blowout victory. I mean, Kyron Williams had a competent enough game, 15 carries, 50 yards or something like that. But Cam Akers, I think he had 22 carries for 29 yards. It's like this team is just not going to be able to establish run. And if you're expecting Puka Nakua to be kind of this dynamo that's going to just blow through, the Niners, linebacker, secondary, whatever it is, and be like that lone all-star in the game. I mean, they've got something coming for him. I mean, Stafford is going to be on his toes the entire game, and at least on the offensive end, like I don't know what the Rams are coming with. Like we're just this will be a very telling game for me. But even so, Brock Purdy very efficient in the game against the Steelers. I mean, found Ayuk, found Debo. Hopefully George Kittle's back. CMC was running all over the place. Like this is just a fun team, man. So yeah, I think they I think they cover that -8 and put some extra points on top of it.
Yeah, no, this is a football team. So, if I think this is probably, if they can continue this momentum, this success that they're having on the football field, throughout the season, stay healthy and all, like there's not a team that can beat them right now. So, yeah, this Niners team again, it would be impressive if the Rams are able to like get it within 10 or something like that. So like that ought to be like a moral victory, I think, for them. So, but yeah, Niners here, I think is it's gonna be a blowout.
For sure. In our next one, we have the New York Giants going on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Wayne, who do you have here?
Man, these are two ugly teams I feel like here. The Cardinals team, right? They were kind of like I don't know, something like a Pat Beverly basically team, just like really scrappy, really annoying, kind of like a little bit of like a I don't know, like a burning ant just nipping on you or something like that. So, but I got the Giants bouncing back here, kind of pulling off a victory. I think they're gonna score points. I think this time against the Cardinals. Cardinals, I think they're gonna make their mistakes. They again probably we definitely, I think every single person's picked them as to basically finish last year. So had a better showing, I think, against the Commanders than a lot of people were projecting. But yeah, against the Giants, I think they're going to come out with a vengeance. Giants, lost against pretty convincingly right against the Cowboys. Cardinals definitely a lot weaker team, so I feel like the Giants pull off the road win here.
Agreed. I mean, I think Washington is one of the worst teams in the league for me. I think some folks are high on Washington based on the defense, their projections, and Sam Howell's upside, but I feel like you know, Washington should have done much better against Arizona. I think it made Arizona look like a lot better than where I think their franchise is currently at. I mean, Dobbs, I think, threw for a buck 30. Connor, 15 carries for 60 yards. I mean, good game, but like he's going to need to be, playing out of his mind for them to stay competitive in a lot of these games. And, with Dobbs throwing for 130, none of the receivers really got involved. Um, it's going to be a long year in Arizona. It's going to be a long year, and I honestly believe they're not even trying to win ball games. Like I think if they can go 0-17, 1-16, 2-15, like they want to do that. That's what their goal is, in my opinion. So, any team coming out playing a halfway decent, game against them is gonna get the victory. And New York Giants are way better than what they showed last night. I mean, now, whether or not they make it to the playoffs or just miss the playoffs is like that's a debate. But in the same sense, I mean, Daboll's going to coach them very well. Daniel Jones, obviously, a little bit better than that. Barkley, rest of the folks, like they're gonna pool together their talent, get this one done. I mean, they probably are going to win by more than 4 points. I think they can easily win by a touchdown or more. So we'll just have to see. But I think the Giants come out energized and get on the board here with the W.
Yeah, I mean, I think Saquon, he's gonna be able to run the ball. I think yeah, they'll just be able to manufacture some points here and there, at least get some yardage. Yeah, I think they're just gonna be able to run the ball, and maybe Waller gets a touchdown, something like that. So, but yeah, uh, the Cardinals definitely are on the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I feel like so. Yeah.
For sure. I'm following Arizona in my survivor pool. Any week that I have against Arizona, unless it's like the worst team in football against Arizona, like I'm picking their opponents. So this week's, I've got the Giants, and I picked the Commanders last week, so I'm just gonna
I,
keep
I
following Arizona wherever I
Yeah,
can.
I was gonna say I think a lot of people pick the Commanders. Like, yeah, this is a good chance to a choice to pick the Commanders. I feel like is this team here. So yeah.
For sure. Moving on to the next one, we've got the New York Jets going into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Wayne, who do you have here?
Sorry, all the Zach Wilson fans out there. I gotta go with the Cowboys. Yeah, really impressive showing against uh, the Giants, who I know we both uh, uh, picked to win the last game there. But yeah, the Cowboys. Ah man, I think they're not gonna be as surprised with regards to this whole Zach Wilson thing and preparing for Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know what it is, but it feels like the Jets always have the Bills' numbers of some fashion. So uh yeah, this Cowboys team, I think Zach Wilson, I think that's just where the concerns are. It seems like he's matured a little bit, at least according to the Hard Knocks, a little bit. That being said, I'm just not going to buy into it at this point. Uh, and the Cowboys look pretty steaming out there. Tony Pollard again. Like I said, I feel like he's going to be like a top running back in fantasy. So that showing that he had, I think, was pretty telling there. And all around great all around win. I think they had a last game. I think they continue on it. I think it's at 9. The last time I checked for the Cowboys, I don't think that's going to happen. I definitely think that it's going to be a close one with the Jets. So with that defense that the Jets have, I think they'll be able to get some pressure. Maybe not a whole lot of pressure on Dak. Maybe cause a turnover here and there, but yeah, in the end, I got the Cowboys winning. Maybe by a touchdown or 3, something like that is what I'm thinking here.
Damn, did you say a touchdown or three?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think
Holy
this
heck.
Jets defense is good. This Jets defense is good, okay? I think that's the one thing that'll keep them in games. But hey, I can say that and Zach Wilson's gonna throw 3 interceptions and that's gonna that's gonna pull it off for them. So for me, it's like I think Robert Sale is gonna be like, hey, let's just run the ball a little bit. Let's just play ball control, but it's gonna be hard against this Cowboys defense.
Yeah. Um, my gut is telling me this game's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of like 17 to 10, 17-13 Dallas. I obviously saw the onslaught that happened in New York this weekend, but I also did see the New York Jets play some pretty incredible football against Buffalo with Zach Willis. Zach Wilson was under center the entire game. So it's not like he came in toward the end and Aaron Rodgers had established some scoring for them out the gate. So what I see at least from Zach Wilson is like you're saying a little bit of the maturity from Hard Knocks. I've been watching. I am thinking that he knows how embarrassing his last year was, and I think Aaron Rodgers um, did show that he was open to Zach and was like being respectful to him and obviously like coaching him along. Like I'm sure he learned a lot this past summer from Aaron just being, around him and being in camp. So, will that translate to Zach Wilson ever being like a starting quarterback in the NFL legitimately? Like, I don't know. But I think that, earning the respect of his teammates is going to be the first step. And I think that he'll be able to do that by the end of the year if I have to make a prediction of some kind. But I think this Jets defense is just too damn good. Like after watching that game against Buffalo, I'm like, Dak's gonna have his hands full. Like I think Dak's gonna be like, like running for his life in the same sense. I think that he's gonna have to find Tony Pollard to be, one of his safety blankets. He's gonna have to, push balls to CeeDee Lamb throughout this game, even though he may be shadowed by Sauce Gardner. So we saw from last week, like Jordan Whitehead was able to kind of clean up and get 3 picks of his own. So it's kind of like, man, even if they try to move off of CeeDee Lamb, like who are they going to go to? Like Brandon Cooks? Like I have Brandon Cooks as like one of my bench receivers right now, and I'm like very inclined to possibly drop the guy. I don't really know just yet, but it's like, at this point, this game's kind of a toss up to me. Like I still think Dallas has more on both sides of the ball right now to feel, really good about them. But yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm changing my opinion on the Jets a little bit. Like, I obviously don't, the loss of Rodgers is huge, and I don't know if they have enough to like win the division per se, but like that defense is going to keep them in so many different ball games this year. And if Zach Wilson can just be the Baker Mayfield of the New York Jets, something like that, where man, we know he doesn't have the talent, but he can just limit turnovers and move the ball down the field and use it, use the weapons that he has around them. Like they can be a good football team. So yeah, that's where I'll go. Cowboys to win, but the Jets, yeah, they don't lose by 8.5.
Yeah, the more I watch this Jets team, the more I'm just a fan of them. I just like the way they play, the smash mouth defense, right? Like you definitely see that Robert Sala's like, footprint basically right in there. And I really like the defense. Yeah, it's just obviously the question marks on the offense. Obviously now without Aaron Rodgers, and hopefully he does have like he's kind of like a coach, right, over to Zach Wilson throughout the rest of the year, right? So, being like, hey, yeah, you got Garrett Wilson out there. We saw what he was able to do against White at the end zone, and hopefully, yeah, like being able to rely on the run game a little bit too, and just being able to make smart plays. I think that's really what it is for him. Like if he can be kind of like a Brock Purdy-ish type of player, like that's I think they can, they might be able to win the division just with like I don't want to say like he's like Brock Purdy's like
That's
basic
a big
plays.
statement, man. That's a
I
big
know, I
statement.
know, I know, I know. But at the same time, like I feel like they could he can have like he can actually like I don't know, pattern his game. I know he's the older player, but pattern his game a little bit to kind of what Brock Purdy's been doing, over there. Because I think they kind of have similar skill set a little bit. Brock Purdy can definitely, run around a little bit and like, yeah, like wait and basically until his wide receivers get open and extend the play. And I think that's like what makes Brock Purdy really special over there because they got a lot of talent around them. So but yeah, when you got a player like Garrett Wilson there, you can definitely do a lot of things. And then yeah, Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook. There's definitely a lot of players I think that can, really. There's just a lot of weapons there. I feel like that they can actually use, just being able to get them the ball and not turn over the ball, right? So, yeah, I have a lot of hopes still. I think for the Jets. Do they beat the Bills after the division? Like, I don't know if I want to make an amendment quite yet, but it's definitely a lot closer. I feel like so. But yeah, like if the Jets are able to win in Buffalo, that could be something that might actually decide the division. But yeah, I really love this defense. Like what I saw from Jermaine Johnson as well. Looks like he's taking another step. Looks like he trained in the off season, just like went crazy. Because he had a killer game and just brought a ton of pressure against Josh Allen there. Like they did not have an answer for that. So that defensive line, I think I said that the Commanders had the best defensive line. They probably had the most talent, but in terms of like overall play and and how deep it is, like that Jets front line was just going nuts against a pretty decent, like okay, I think Bills line over there. So, but yeah, gonna still go with the Cowboys for sure. I think in this game.
Sounds good. Moving on to our next one, we have the Washington Commanders going into Denver to take on the Broncos. Wayne, who are you picking?
And so I was definitely like back and forth. I was with you. Like I think I did talk about the Commanders being like maybe kind of a surprise team or maybe taking like a next step. But yeah, after that showing against the Cardinals, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick the Broncos here. Both teams like not, I mean, yeah, in my opinion, like not the most impressive first games. I probably liked maybe the Raiders now a little bit more than I gave them credit for. I think I had the Broncos ahead of them. So, but Russell Wilson looked pretty decent out there. I think he elongated a couple plays and. He could definitely use Judy. I still think he's projected not to play, so good call on that. I think last week, but yeah, I think Justin Simmons he's gonna get an interception on Sam Howell. I think that's gonna happen. Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties out there. I think that nobody really knows too much about, but you know, uh, I see him as a ball hawk. I think he'll get an interception. I think the Broncos will win the turnover battle, and I think that'll probably be what kind of decides this game more so of, maybe they're able to move the ball a little bit more effectively. But yeah, I think Sean Payton was somewhat effective with Russell Wilson. But yeah, I think they'll just make a couple more plays more than the Commanders in this one here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got Denver. I thought that Russell had an efficient game. His average depth of target was pretty low. It looked like he was obviously leaning on Javonte Williams, P. Ryan in the backfield, even in the passing game too. It felt like he needs to kind of work a little bit more vertically. I think you've got Cortland Sutton there, Marvin Mims might be worth, you know, some looks. They've got Dulcich, Troutman as well at tight end. I feel like they've got some weapons there to play around with a little bit, and maybe Peyton's just scheming based on the team he's playing. Maybe that was why they were kind of going with the short game pretty much all game. Maybe he was just trying to get comfortable coaching Russell Wilson too, and just like limiting the ability for him to create turnovers and stuff in the first one. So I think this Denver team, at home will come out. Uh, play well coached, solid football here. I'm having doubts about Washington and just like what their upside is going to be this year. I mean, I think I had them projected to win 5 games over the course of the year just because they're in the NFC East. I feel like that's going to be one of the tougher divisions this year. I like their front four. I like Cameron Curl. I like what they're doing on the defensive side, but I think the offense definitely has limitations. I mean, Antonio Gibson had a dud of a performance. Brian Robinson played okay, but again, in the receiving game, like McLaurin was non-existent with Howell. I just don't know what Howell's upside is as a passer just yet, and I feel like that offense is going to be kind of a mixed bag week to week. I don't feel like they, without having some sort of like star passer, can really utilize the upside of guys like Jahan Dotson, McLaurin, even a Curtis Samuel. Would get probably a lot better work with a real, pass heavy, pass first type, quarterback under center. So I'm a little bearish on Sam Howell's upside. I know the fantasy folks out there really love his ability to run the ball, and they think he's like this super sneaky sleeper quarterback in most leagues, but I don't see it. I think Washington has a rougher year, and I think this game kind of proves that.
Yeah, Sam Howell really needs to be like a Dana Jones, just run the ball, or like what Trubisky ought to have been, just like make him a mobile quarterback, basically, and then be able to. He has good receivers, so, like just get him the ball here or there, whether swing routes or something, or slants, right? Or, yeah, McLaurin didn't really do too much, and he's going to go against a tough secondary there with Simmons and Surtain, so I just don't see it for me at least in this game. Maybe they do improve upon a little bit, but yeah, for me, was not impressed in the first game, and yeah, I think Russell Wilson and the Broncos defense, I think they make some plays.
For sure. In our next one, we have the Miami Dolphins going on the road to New England to take on the Pats. Wayne, who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pats are underdogs here at 2.5. Dolphins had a really impressive showing, last game, but I don't see them putting that many points up against the Pats here. I have the Pats taking this one. Good showing, right, against the Eagles. I think they can kind of take that same energy, bring it to the Dolphins, and I think that they're able to win this game there. I think, Mac Jones will be able to make just enough plays, right? And then also, I think it's like, hey, let's just not make sure that Tua doesn't get 460 or 450 yards of passing. Like, let's just make sure that like Mostert runs the ball. Like, do everything we can to make sure. Like, I think Bill Belichick can design a game plan with regards to that for this at least, and be able to effectively just take out Tua and Hill as much as possible there. So, albeit like this is a tough Dolphins team to slow down, so I definitely wouldn't be surprised. Hey, if they put up another like 30, 40 points here. But for me though, it's like I just feel like Bill Belichick, this defense, they had a good showing against the Eagles. Yeah, and I think they'll carry some of that momentum over to the Dolphins here, pull off an upset, keep it somewhat close. But yeah, I think they'll make enough plays on the offensive side to win the game here.
It's a pretty fair take. I think going into New England's always a tough matchup for whoever has to go and do that. Bill Belichick, one of the best preparers of any football game I feel like we've ever seen in the NFL. I think for all the concerns or maybe the questions you have about whether Miami is able to replicate the Week 1 performance, I have the same feelings about Mac Jones and his 300-yard passing game with 3 TDs as well. I think that Miami obviously went up against one of the more high octane offenses in this game in the Chargers. I think that their defense is a lot better than what they showed. They obviously were a bottom two defense for the week, but I think what we see is what Miami really is and how they really are going to impose themselves on the offensive side of the ball. Waddle was kind of a game time decision last week with the oblique. I think, he put up a respectable stat line for himself. I think, with better health, he's only going to be more dynamic, takes some of the pressure off of Tyreek Hill to, have 200 yards receiving and all that other good stuff. But yeah, I think there are some shortcomings in the rushing game. Devon Achane was a kind of a healthy scratch going into Week 1. Maybe he, is a part of the active roster. Maybe they can get him incorporated with Mostert, kind of change up the looks a little bit. We'll just have to see. But Mostert is a professional. I think Mike McCarthy is too. I think for everything that Belichick brings in game prep, I think Mike McCarthy is equally as nerdy. I think that they're starting this year off on a good note. Obviously, winning in LA in a pretty close game. I think if they go ahead and do this again, this dark horse team that I was picking to kind of be under the radar and maybe having a lesser first half and maybe a better second half or something like that. Like they string together 2 wins here. Man, they're going to be pretty dangerous, especially with the Jets losing Aaron Rodgers and obviously the Bills kind of looking flat in game 1. So we'll just have to see. But I'm going to take Miami to edge out the Pats.
Yeah, I mean, fair points. This Dolphins team, explosive as hell. And yeah, hopefully Tua can be healthy. I think the one thing at the Pats, yeah, they have a pass rush. I think that's one thing that they'll be able to do. I think they're ranked or tied for third last season. Judon, right? I think he's an effective pass rusher. So, you know, maybe they'll be able to get some rattle Tua a little bit, I think is what I'm projecting, but we'll see. I think this can definitely go either way. I think the Pats are two and a half underdogs, so will definitely be either a close one or a blowout, and if it's a blowout, probably be in the favor for the Dolphins there.
Sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to this one. In our next matchup, we have the New Orleans Saints going on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers. Wayne, who are you picking here?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth with this because I think I was looking at the Panthers a little bit, and you know I didn't think that they did too bad. Their past game, I know Bryce Young had 2 interceptions there, but yeah, I'm gonna have to still go with the Saints here. You know, veteran defensive squad. I know they kind of just edged out a win in their last game there. So, but I think they'll cause some turnovers still against the Panthers. I think that's just my take on it. I was pretty high on the Saints defense from a fantasy perspective going into the season. One of the weaker schedules first half in the entire NFL and best schedules overall just for the Saints, I think here. So, Derek Carr, I think it took a while for him to get comfortable, I think, in this offense a little bit. I think they'll take the next step here. I think the Panthers are 3 point underdogs. And I think the Saints will cover that. I think they'll actually beat them by maybe by a touchdown or more. In my opinion, I think they'll they had some testings to kind of go under. Now I think they'll optimize a little bit with Derek Carr over there, and get Chris Olave a little bit more involved. Get some of their other wideouts involved as well, Michael Thomas, whomever, right? Just a little bit more involved there, and move the ball a little bit more effectively.
Yeah, I'm going to side with you on this one. I think that Carolina, for what it's worth, they got run all over by Atlanta, but at the end of the day, still had a top five defensive performance across the NFL. I mean, I feel like going into the year, analysts were pretty high on Carolina's defense, maybe the thing that will be their backbone this year. But man, that offense just looked really bad, and against an Atlanta team that was kind of being ranked as a bottom five D in the game too. I mean, to kind of just show up pretty flat. I mean, Bryce Young looked like lesser than CJ Stroud, than an Anthony Richardson, at least in week one. They don't have a lot of weapons outside of Miles Sanders. I feel like, Hayden Hurst being their number two option at this point. I mean, that's not saying a whole lot. And, Adam Thielen and Chark really just weren't on the map in week one. And, obviously they're a bit older. They're not exactly, guys that you look to at this point to be more than maybe your third option on a real competitive team. So I think Carolina is going to, take their lumps throughout this year. I think it's going to be a tough year for them. And I mean, that's, again, only a good thing if, you're a Chicago Bear fan. So hopefully it continues to trend in that direction. New Orleans, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, tough game that they fought, against with Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee definitely, coughed up a bunch of turnovers there, interceptions wise. But yeah, this is a a savvy, experienced defense. It's aging just a touch, but in the same sense, like they're going to scheme well. They're going to play, real competitive football on the defensive side. On offense, Derek Carr is a really nice, passer to just kind of inject into that offense. I mean, if Michael Thomas can stay healthy with Olave, it's a good tandem. And then I really liked what Rashid Shaheed did as well. I mean, he was dynamic in the backfield. He was catching balls. He was returning. I think he had over 100 return yards in the kick and punt game. I mean, that's kind of like a little X factor there. And then you've got obviously Jamal Williams is a established pro, and they can mix in a little Kendre Miller too. Like, why not? Yeah, I think this is a very um, solid football team, especially when we talk about NFC South competitors this year. So, yeah, give me the Saints as well, going on the road. I think they, I think they beat them by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, again, the turnovers, I think that's going to be the big thing. I think yeah, they got what, yeah, three interceptions off of Tannehill, right? They might be able to do that against Bryce Young, just the way that they've been playing. I feel like against both sides, both the Saints as well as the Panthers here. So, Bryce Young, bright quarterback, but yeah, just not the greatest start I think right now. So he will be at home, so maybe that does help a little bit. But yeah, I still like the Saints winning here and probably creating some turnovers against the Panthers.
Gotcha. And in our last one here, Monday Night Football, this one should be pretty fun. We got the Cleveland Browns going on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Wayne, who are you taking in this matchup?
Man, I went back and forth on this one a bunch. It's like the Steelers, like they just had to go against the best team in the entire football. Again, I was saying with the Niners, they just played out of their minds, right? Uh, yeah, Steelers though, like preseason they were like everybody was hyped up about the Steelers in the preseason. I was like, wow, I never like had as much or heard as much hype from a team just because of the preseasons a little bit here, but man, there were a lot of bullish activity I think with regards to Steelers coming to this season. Kenny Pickett now, like he's been solidified as a starter. Um, but I just think this Browns defense, they just I don't know. They were just playing out of their mind. I feel like the defensive line was just getting pressure like on a constant basis against Joe Burrow and that offense, right? And they were supposed to have an improved line, right, with Orlando Brown and such. So for me, man, the offensive line for the Steelers, with I think they have Broderick Jones, but I think they got like another player is kind of starting in his place right now. But yeah, they had 5 sacks with from the 49ers there. I think they could probably get probably 5 sacks from the Browns, I feel like, with Garrett and Zadarius Smith. And then, oh yeah, they also have a really talented secondary who can hold down the fort against Pickens and Deontay Johnson. So for me, and then Deshaun Watson, he it took a little bit. It took a little while for him to get comfortable. Made some plays with his legs. Did have that one bad interception, right? But and that might happen against the Steelers just with their defense. But at the same time, Nick Chubb, I think Cameron Hayward. I think he's going to be rolled out here. That's a big loss for them against Nick Chubb and that offensive line that they have. I think they'll be able to run the ball through the the Steelers a little bit. And then, Deshaun Watson will make enough plays there too with Amari, Donovan Peoples-Jones, etc. So for me, yeah, I'm going to have to pick with the Browns winning on the road here, going 2-0. I think, we both picked them going last year, but I was just really impressed with what I saw. Deshaun Watson, it looks like he's going to get a little bit more comfortable. I think, in this week 2 matchup here. So for me, yeah, gonna go with the Browns here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this Browns team is way more talented than we gave them credit for, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I feel like we've talked about some of their additions, Tomlinson, Okoronkwo on the line with Miles Garrett, obviously. I mean, they shut down the Bengals. I mean, just shut them down. And I know Burrow's kind of nursing a calf injury, and folks were kind of weary about him even, starting games at the start of this year. So I expect that had, a big part in, maybe the Bengals being so anemic. But man, it's exciting. I mean, I think that if Watson can just be, 3/4 of who he was in his prime in Houston, I mean, that's all they kind of really need at this point to be a playoff contender. I mean, a strong playoff contender. I mean, Nick Chubb kind of walking his way to another 100-yard game. Watson didn't really have to do a whole lot with his arm, but in the same sense, like was able to have 5 solid rushes for almost about 50 yards. So it's like he's got that dynamism in his game where he's got the feet. Obviously has to work on maybe some of the passing stuff. Had a rougher second half last year, but they have enough weapons, bringing over Elijah Moore with Peoples-Jones and Cooper, where, their offense could be formidable enough. I know their offensive line is one of the best in the game, too. So they've got the right protection there up front. So if they can control the trenches, I mean, we're talking about the Browns being, like, I'm talking about them in the playoff discussion, haven't even, like, kind of talked about the Steelers just yet. But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, I've heard Deontay Johnson might be inactive for this week 2 game. So if we thought Pickett was struggling in the first one, now you take away one of your best receptions guys, and it's like outside of that, I mean Pickens had the most targets, but in the same sense was kind of middle of the pack in terms of yardage. It didn't really feel like anyone really stood out or stepped up in that receiving game. I think this offense is going to be kind of rough this year. I mean, Najee and Jalen Warren didn't do a whole lot as well against the Niners. So it's like, what can you really count on, from the Steelers in that sense? I mean, I feel like their defense is going to be, kind of what carries them, but they're in one of those divisions where, man, like their defense could be real solid, but they're going up against 3 teams that could be in the playoffs. I mean, easily making playoff arguments for the other 3 competitors in their league. And I think I had the Steelers in the basement. I think that's just another game that keeps them there. So yeah, I think Cleveland wins, and I think they handsomely cover that 2-point spread.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, I agree. It's kind of unfortunate for the Steelers fans and everything, I feel like. And we'll see if Tomlin's able to kind of continue that winning or not losing season streak and everything going on here. It's a really tough division that they're in right now. Again, yeah, with 3 playoff contending teams there that just have like a little bit more solidified at the quarterback position and on the offensive side of the ball. So that's just where, yeah, even though they have some playmakers on the defensive side, this definitely is an offensive league. So you need your playmakers there right now. Yeah, they're just not at that level at the moment. So yeah, sad to say, yeah, the Steelers, yeah, it's going to be kind of a rough going on, I think, this season. But we'll see. But yeah, for us, it just seems like the Browns will pull this one off.
Agreed. Yeah, fully agreed. So I guess those are all the matchups for this week. Those are, Wayne and my takes overall on who we think are going to win. Wayne, do you have any other football points to make before we move on to final thoughts?
I mean, the only thing is basically like, I love the defense going on that aren't the Bears, and it really just goes to show and and you talked about it before about the lack of defensive talent on the defensive line, right, for the Bears, and then we were just pointing out both the Browns and how effective they were, right, demolishing our potential Super Bowl contender, right, with the Bengals over there, and then the Jets, right, with Quinn Williams and everything, Jermaine Johnson, both are just dominating the Bills, right? It just goes to show like investing in that defensive line is essential, and I think that was like one thing like I definitely did not like what Ryan Poles did was like yeah we got Ngakwe and Demarcus Walker, but they're just not like the playmakers at the moment, and I don't know if there's a plan to like look at future drafts and just like okay let's just solidify Justin Fields a little bit because we're not really doing a good job there necessarily at least right now. But yeah, would love to see more defensive talent on the Bears defensive side of the line of the ball there, and to help out with that secondary who's young, they're talented some there, but yeah, they just have a lot on their plate I feel like, and yeah, the defensive game scheming there too. So yeah, I just want to see good defense in Chicago again. I feel like, and yeah, that's all there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, at least for me on football, I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals to kind of like um, kind of show up and like assert their dominance too. I mean, they really have to come out and I think have, dominating performances or at least, give us some whiffs of what we saw in the last few seasons. I mean, Cincinnati's up against a tougher matchup with the Ravens, but they can't fall to 0-2, I don't think. Not in their division, not in their conference. Like I just think that they really have to show up and pull out a W here early on. As well for Buffalo, I think it's you know easier for them to find maybe a W in this matchup in the same sense like just the whispers of Stephon Diggs kind of like wanting out at the start of the year, whether or not that report was ironclad from Stephen A. Smith. It's kind of like you could kind of see him whining towards the end of their playoff loss against the Bengals last year, and if that carried over into the offseason, kind of moving forward, he's one of the straws that stirs the drink on their offense. And that was clearly visible in that game against the Jets. He was the only guy really on their entire offense that had a stat line that was respectable in that game. Everybody else looks to him to get that, positive energy, that momentum, kind of that swagger, for the offense itself. I mean, this is a year where Josh Allen just really has to show like he's a top tier quarterback in this game. Otherwise, I mean, I think we're just looking at a guy who can put up some really awesome fantasy stats and otherwise is kind of just a deer in the headlights. And yeah, I'm looking at both of these teams hard this weekend to understand like, are they elite or, are they regressing a little bit to the mean?
Yeah, how about that? Bills regressing. Who's saying it? Who's saying it? No, I mean I think that's fair because it's like you know like Josh Allen, all the talent in the world, but I think I remember seeing that stat on Monday Night Football. Yeah, the other night, just about yeah, he has like the most touchdowns, like both passing and rushing, in like the past what 5 years or so. But then he also has like the most turnovers. Like that's not a good thing. So you know, granted, yeah, they've won a bunch of games. He's made Pro Bowls and such, but there's always been those moments where in the postseason, when they aren't at their best, he's committing those turnovers, making those boneheaded decisions, forcing the ball, and we saw that against the Jets there, with those three interceptions to Whitehead. And I think the funny part is like Whitehead got like a $250,000 bonus or something like that, because that was like his season bonus level, which is pretty funny. Like all in one game, like good for him. So, but yeah, it's like if you're gonna be the Madden cover, if you're gonna be the face of the franchise, the top echelon, quarterback, you gotta stop making boneheaded decisions there. And I think that's just where you know there still is some progression I think he needs to make on that side, and he has enough talent. I feel like on the offensive side to just do that. Like we could talk about Gabe Davis, how he's up and down, Stephon Diggs and his level of effort right now, and his contract situation, etc. But the talent's there. The talent's there. It's just making the most of it and making sure you just be a little bit cerebral, a little bit cerebral. Like there was that play I think against the Jets where he didn't need to like, I think it was like a third and long or something, and he like unwittingly like made effort on the play to like bulldoze for the first down. He was like 5 yards off and stuff like that. Just being a little bit smarter with your body and with your decisions there. So I don't know. That's just how I feel with Josh Allen. All the time in the world, fun to watch. It's just those. There's just those times he just makes bonehead decisions still.
Yeah, he's got to lock in on that consistency. I mean, we saw in that last drive before, regulation expired in the fourth quarter, like he was in the zone. Like he was hitting his spots, he was moving the ball down the field efficiently. It's like you got to have that for 4 quarters every game, if you want to be, considered in the top tier here. And, it just feels like year after year they come up short. He puts up a dud. It just, he waffles toward the end. It's kind of like, man, like who do we really have here under center? And man, I'd like to think that he is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in this game, but this year's going to say a lot, so we'll just have to see.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I guess
And no, yeah, I was gonna say I agree, 100% agree, and I'm still cheering for the Jets to win the division, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, I might change my mind in like week 8 or something. So
for sure. Yeah. So I guess with that, we'll start off on our final thoughts here. Wayne, why don't you kick it off?
yeah, no, I was just thinking like I was thinking about snacks like during like hiking or like getting out and stuff like that, and I've been into like things like beef jerky and such, but I do want to give a shout out to like Joe's Chocolate actually. I came about with them and like when I was in Seattle, Joe's Chocolate, and it's pretty nifty. It's like I like chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? Oh, I mean, there's some people that don't like chocolate, but I like all kinds of chocolate. But the one ingredient that they do have is caffeine. They put coffee in their chocolate. So like when you're going on a hike, right, and it's the kind of chocolate that doesn't like melt in your hands, right? So you can carry it on, on a hike. You just want that a little bit of sweetness or something like that, but you also need that kick of caffeine. That's where you come in with Joe's Chocolate. And it's like, okay, I'm a little tired and all that, and I'm still a little hungry. It's a nice little snack that kind of gets that extra kick in you for like, okay, maybe I'll go on another couple miles. So, yeah, I don't know if you have any like outdoor snack or something like that that gets you a little more energized, but yeah, just thought about Joe's Chocolate, especially like more of the hiking season for me. I like to hike in the fall a little bit more, get outside in the fall, just not as sweaty or don't have to fight the humidity right in the Midwest. So, but yeah, for me, just want to give a shout out to Joe's Chocolate and just all kind of hiking snacks out there, beef jerky, etc.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, no, I have a comparable snack here. I'm just gonna throw it out there, and whether or not I can classify it as a snack is one thing, but it kind of acts like that when I'm playing baseball games. But essentially, I kind of need that extra boost, especially with all these night games that I have midweek. It's like, the days are a grind as it is, and being a parent and stuff. So it's like super tiring. But Grinds is a product that was actually featured on Shark Tank, but it is essentially a dip, kind of a like pouches for what we'd think for baseball players, tobacco, all that other stuff. But Grinds is actually coffee grounds mashed up into the same types of pouches that usually cover tobacco. So it's like I put in these Grinds pouches into my gums and stuff, and like, man, it just gives me like a little bit of a number one, a buzz from just the coffee grounds itself, but they also come in like a ton of different flavors. So you can get like caramel, mint, wintergreen, chocolate, mocha. I've had vanilla. I've had all sorts of stuff. I've had original coffee too, and like it tastes pretty good. Like I know dipping for a lot of folks, like if you haven't played baseball or football, you probably never got into it. Obviously, with the cancer risk and everything else like that from regular tobacco, totally get it. But I do think for even somebody who's never dipped before, just to have like a pouch sitting there and kind of like you can you don't have to spit the actual pouch uh, fluids out, you can actually, just drink it. You can do whatever else, but it's just like that taste is in your mouth. It's kind of, I don't know. For me, it's something that goes with sports that's, obviously not detrimental to my health, but in the same sense, like gives me that kick, gives me, kind of, something else to kind of have as far as taste in my mouth goes. So it's pretty good for that sense too. But um, yeah, I don't know. Outside of that, I feel like another thing, if you're trying to energize a little bit, you can take a pre-workout. It's kind of, just a powder you throw in water, put some ice in it, acts like a Gatorade. But I actually drink NO Explode, which I think is pretty good. I mean, I usually do like a half scoop because, you do a full scoop and you're going to be kind of out of your mind. I mean, you're going to be up to like 2 a.m. with the amount of energy you get off of, one of these drinks. But I will say, like, I have this blue raspberry flavor that I really enjoy. I do a half scoop with water right before a game too, and kind of tastes like Riptide Rush, that Gatorade flavor. So, it's a really good, like, great electrolyte drink, and then I just kind of drop it, and it just gives me like unlimited energy for the 3 hours, 4 hours that I'm playing baseball.
No, that sounds awesome. Yeah. I think any type of thing that gives you a kick like that, whether it be, some sort of powder, or protein, if you're want some protein, go check out Titan Nutrition out there. Nice affiliate for us there. So, but yeah, no, I think any type of thing like that, especially, yeah, if you're just, afternoon, it's getting darker now in the fall, right? Like you just need something to just give me a little pick me up, especially if you want, either a hike, baseball game, something like that, just to kind of get you through the day.
Yeah. I mean, I really look at, nutrition facts. I'm looking for no added sugar, more healthy forms of sugar at the very least. I think that obviously tobacco free. I'm not looking to, create any sort of cancer risk for myself, but I'd say whatever you guys take, whether you're going out and grabbing Titan Nutrition products for pre-workout protein, whatever else it could be, or any other sorts of brands, just do your homework. I mean, I feel like everybody can do that nowadays anyway with Google, but always looking at WebMD for, side effects, other things that could, affect your health. So just be careful, be safe out there. And I'm just happy there's some brands out there that have actually created these products. Like I think Grinds for baseball players is such a great thing because, everybody wants to be, when they're younger, like that cool baseball player they saw growing up who was, dipping and spitting and stuff like that. And, you know, when I was in high school, everybody was dipping on my baseball team when I was getting into Legion ball and stuff like that. Obviously, had a bunch of different friends that weren't, and more or less steered a little bit clear. But I got wrapped up in the same thing that everybody else kind of wanted to embody at that time and stuff. And like now that there's just like cleaner, healthier options that give you the same, let's say jolt, but also won't give you mouth cancer in the same sense. Like thumbs up.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know there was a lot of fear, I think, happening after the whole Tony Gwynn, right? I think he had like was it mouth or like tongue cancer or something like that, and he was like a big chewer of tobacco.
Mm.
So yeah, I know that there was kind of I don't say like a backlash on that, but even before like all that kind of all that transpired, just a lot of big fear with tobacco in general. So good that there's I guess more alternatives kind of popping up that are a little bit more modern and conscientious of all health and utilizing all the science out there. So no, great to see all the science contributing to better chewing habits and such.
For sure. Man, for me, my final thought, actually, I got to give a shout out to my friend Dennis who plugged this new game that I'm playing on a daily basis now. It's called the Immaculate Grid. Wayne, perhaps you've heard of it. If you're a fan of baseball reference, basketball reference, pro football reference as well, essentially, it's a nine square game. They give you a team on both sides of this, X and Y axis, and you basically have to pick basically nine players to fill out your grid. And the more popular the player is, the worse your score is. So you have to find like that very unique player in the team's history. And just to kind of give like an example, like you may have the San Francisco Giants up on one end and the New York Mets up on the top end. So you're having to scrounge around your brain and really like think about those very obscure players that have played for both teams. And the thing that's great about the Immaculate Grid is that you only have 9 guesses for the 9 squares. So if you mess up, your game's not ruined, but you'll get a blank for that square and your score will go up. So it's like it's just really fun to like, get really deep in your thoughts about those like bench players, relievers, other, bench players in the NFL or basketball as well that have played for multiple teams and stuff. And, like Wordle, like MLB Pickle, there's like all these games out there I feel like that are just like good daily distractions that just get your mind off of whatever you're doing for like that 10 to 20 minutes or something. But I just, given we're a sports show, culture show and stuff like that, I had to give the Immaculate Grid a shout out. And kind of in the same sense, Wayne, I just want to throw a question back at you, but whether any of the games I mentioned are on your daily list or anything like that, are there any games that you play on a daily, weekly, monthly basis at this point?
I mean, I still play Wordle. I discovered Wordle on a date actually. I was like, "Wait, what is this thing?" I was like, "Oh, you should just try it out." And I haven't talked to the girl since then, but I have played Wordle like every single week at least once. Usually like on a Sunday when I'm just like want to relax, make some breakfast, have a cup of coffee. Instead of reading the Sunday newspaper, I do Wordle. And I've had streaks of like 50, because it's on a daily basis. So, but yeah, I still do Wordle. Try to keep as active, at least on a weekly basis on that Sundays, when I got nothing really too much going on there. So that definitely is one game where it's a weekly thing. I just kind of focus it on there. I still play Madden, believe it or not, like as shitty of a game it is and how much I really look forward to like 2K eventually getting like rights or whatever, and I'm really counting down on that contract from EA just to like disperse of that. I still play Madden just because I don't know, at least for my feeling, it's like, I don't have so much time in the day, so much energy to give to a game these days that, I just want to like play as a quarterback, throw a couple passes here and there. Football, it's only like 17 games now in a season, so I can get by with the career, like, throughout the course of the NFL season versus like playing a baseball game or a basketball game where the seasons are just a little bit longer and you don't progress year to year as much. So, just some mind numbing stuff, I think, from the sports perspective there. But yeah, Wordle, I definitely play that, and I haven't heard of Immaculate Grid, but this thing looks awesome. I'm looking at it right now. I'm probably gonna I'm probably gonna play it like on Sundays now every single time. Does this change like on a daily basis? Is it, or is it like a weekly, daily? Is it okay? No,
Yeah,
this is gonna be a
daily,
problem.
daily.
This is gonna be a problem for me. It's gonna be one more thing I think that I'll be looking into. So thank you for that. But yeah, Wordle, Madden, all those games I play. But yeah, probably I'll play Immaculate Grid because yeah, baseball reference. That's my love language right there.
Yeah, and it's cool because I mean you can pick from any of the three sports. You could do all three every single day if you really had nothing going on or something like that. But once you're done with your actual grid and you get your score, they have hyperlinks to each box in that grid that allow you to see every player that would have, qualified for that box. So like it's really cool because then you can kind of go back and remind yourself of that, that player in the 90s that you were, like really trying to figure out whether or not he was on the team or not, and you just didn't pull the trigger or whatever it could be. But give it a test run. I'm highly addicted to it right now, so we'll see how long it lasts. I've stuck with MLB Pickle as well, which is basically Wordle for MLB. You just kind of you get some clues and you got to figure out who the player is that's the secret player of the day in the MLB currently. So less fun of a game than Immaculate Grid for sure, but just one that's like kind of on my checklist when I've got some downtime or waiting for a meeting to start or something like that. But outside of that, I would say that, when we talk back to traditional video games, it's been a while since I've actually had a system, to be honest with you, but I do have this $14 box that I bought during the pandemic that came preloaded with 600 Nintendo games on it. The graphics and art are a little bit off, given that it's a tad bit bootlegged. But if you're just like one of those like traditional Mario fans or Space Invaders or RBI Baseball or Pac-Man, any of the really traditional old like arcade games, you can find these systems on Amazon for like $15 to $20, and I'm telling you, you can waste. I mean, for some nights during the pandemic, I wasted 6+ hours trying to get through Mario 3. So another shout out, very cheap bootleg systems you can buy online to play those classic arcade games.
What was your first system? Was it Sega? Was it Nintendo? Which one was it for you?
For me, it was the original Nintendo, and it wasn't too long after that we had a Sega Genesis. And I didn't have a Super NES until after I had an N64. So I have a weird line of systems, but I think it went Dreamcast after that, and then I think we ventured into the PlayStation 2 at that point afterwards because I think we were partial to N64. But we jumped around brands, and man, I was always just big on like some of those very unique games to the system itself, like Streets of Rage for Sega, Street Fighter 2, Battletoads, love that. Absolutely loved like all the sports games on each individual system. Like they were very unique for the system itself. Like as you know, we've talked about video games in the past, but like your Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest or your RBI baseballs for the earlier systems and stuff, and then getting into like MVP Madden as part of the EA Sports line on PS2. Like I've got some of my favorites like of all time on all those systems, but like yeah, each one is super special to me. Growing up and through college and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all those games. Hey, definitely check out that. Maybe I'll try to link it in the description of that episode where we talk about, some of our favorite sports games and such. Definitely good memories there. But no, yeah, I'll definitely play this Immaculate Grid. It looks really cool, and I'm glad it references that data side, right? Like, I'm looking at it here right now. It's like 300 win careers pitching, right, for either the Phillies, Braves, and then also the Giants here. And I got a couple here, so uh, I could definitely see myself playing this game for a while. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. If I have one suggestion, start with the easiest players you can think of, and then like as you get accustomed to the tool itself, like then really start to stretch yourself. And like now I'm at this point where I'm trying so hard to just put a bench player down, from the 90s and stuff that I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to waste the obvious player in the room. Like, but it's hard, man. It is a hard game, especially you try to think back to like three sports and whatever else it could be. It's like it gets tough, and usually I have a box empty or two each day. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it definitely like makes me like want to like look at a reliever or a reliever's history of teams or something like that. That's like, just been a journeyman or whatever, and utilizing that knowledge to see if like okay, I can place take care of that left side of this square here. So yeah, fun game looks like.
For sure. Well, awesome night. Week two. We're looking forward to it. Hopefully, our picks hit, just a little bit better this week. Man, yeah, just glad to have football back on the screen. So much fun to have, folks over just watching the game, eating just tons of garbage and junk food and stuff. But yeah, Wayne, hopefully you have a good weekend. Enjoy the games, and if you guys are still around, like, subscribe, comment as always. We are absolutely loving the fandom coming through our YouTube series of videos here. So keep that up. We're also on Instagram at Ball and Breakfast, and also on podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. With Wayne, I'm Patrick, signing off for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.